All right, welcome back to the program. Let's get the conversation started on daily politics. Wilson Inalegwu is a retired Assistant Inspector General of Police, and Senator Shehu Sani needs no introduction, a former lawmaker of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, an author, and of course, a public commentator. Gentlemen, good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
Right, okay, we are having this conversation against the backdrop of the rather unfortunate developments from Sokoto, but there are multiple other events that happened just this week that shed light on this ever-growing challenge of insecurity in Nigeria. I would like to start with, retired Assistant Inspector General of Police Wilson Inalegwu. What are your thoughts about how we are handling this growing security challenge across Nigeria?
Well, I want to say that the situation is very serious and it's worrying, no doubt. And I think the security services, law enforcement, security, and the military are doing the best they can. But I think when you're dealing with the kind of security situation we're talking about, there is need for more engagement with the public, coordination among security agencies, looking at man and technology, the combination of these. And what it goes to show is that it doesn't spare anybody. So we must regard it as our collective challenge. And when we have that mindset, you get everybody together. I know you talk about terrain. Of course, terrain is a challenge. And I think, take example, kidnap along highways. Even the officers who are on patrol, their life is in danger because the shrubs swallow even the shoulders of the road. I think that's what the local authorities, the local government can do, just to clear the shoulders of the road so you can have clear view when you drive. And then, in terms of resources of the security personnel, the police that has prime minister on internal security, are they adequately equipped? Not even to talk of adequate. Are they equipped to a level that they can rise up to this challenge in terms of vehicle? So when we're calling for the cooperation of the public, well, the public want to give you information. They want to be able to respond. And if they tell you you appear helpless, it's difficult. But if you go to most of our police stations, I can tell you, a police station with a strength of even 100, you will not get more than 3 or 4 serviceable vehicles. And this will remain a challenge. But so I think what we need, and then investigation and prosecution is an area that needs to be emphasized. And why do I talk that a lot of arrests have been made? I think the public want to know that these guys have been taken to court. And I think it's got to a level that publicity need to be given, if it involves weekly brief, that such arrests made, prosecution is ongoing, and you do a kind of combination. And another thing that I think we need to do is about data-driven policing.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about some of that data, especially the one that we were just displaying a moment ago. If we can just go back to that graphic display of the latest figures. This is just between mid-August to present day. From August 16 to date, you look at the number of attacks across different states, especially in the north. It's telling of a dire situation. This, of course, didn't even include the killing of the district head, as well as some of those abductions that have happened in Niger State. But this is just to recap some of the recent events. Senator, when you look at some of these figures and some of these developments, I mean, you're an advocate for some of these issues. In your view, is this a challenge of scale or strategy?
Thank you for having me in this program. Well, first and foremost, I think it is high time we ask questions. Northern part of Nigeria borders on southern part of Niger Republic, northern part of Benin Republic, southern, western part of Chad, and northern part of Cameroon. Why is it there is no bandits in northern parts of Benin Republic? Why there are no bandits in southern part of Niger Republic? Why there are no bandits in northern part of Cameroon and western part of Chad? Why must it be northern Nigeria? These are questions we need to ask ourselves. And why can't our security agencies work in alliance with security forces within our neighboring countries who have specialized in tackling and securing their own very borders? We don't need France, we don't need United Kingdom, we don't need US to secure our country for us. We can do it. This is the 21st century. There are issues and problems we can solve ourselves. For example, if I make any phone call from this studio, there is no way our telecommunications system will not have detected where I have been making these calls. These bandits have been using their phones to make calls, record videos and send it, and nothing happens.
Yeah,
they even record themselves, their photo. They're no more putting.
They're very popular on TikTok,
yes.
especially.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we ask questions. This is the 21st century. Why is it a nation that has been able to restore peace and order in Sierra Leone, in Liberia, in Congo, we are finding it difficult to secure our country? I must emphasize the fact that our security agencies are doing their best, but their best is not enough. It's because they are doing their best that people in Sokoto can sleep, people in Katsina can sleep, people in Kaduna. And if you look at the whole territory where these killings are going on, it is still a fraction of where the whole population lives. But the whole of these bandits and terrorists, if you count them, they're not up to 20,000. Then how can a nation of 220 million people, with such enormous resources we have, the security budgets of Niger, Chad, Cameroon, and Benin Republic is less than a quarter of Nigeria's security budget? Why are we still finding it difficult to secure our country? It is very important that we fund and equip our military, and from the budget I can see that has been done. But also
allocations or actual spending? Actual spending.
During Buhari regime, a minister of finance disclosed that about 1.3 trillion, and INEC and defense budget are the most heavily funded budget we have in this country. We should know very well that if we don't secure our country, if we don't secure our rural areas, there is no developmental program, no any lofty ideas or any policies of government can ever be implemented. Right. The earlier we secure northern part of Nigeria, the better for the whole part of the country. Strategy involves using technology to tackle our security problems. It is doable. If a nation like Algeria, that is about 2.5 size of Nigeria, can secure their borders, if countries like Ethiopia, that is almost the size of Nigeria, can secure their country, why can't we do that with experienced military, experienced policemen, experienced security agencies that have been tested and have proven their worth in other countries? These are questions we need to ask ourselves, and we have to find answer the earlier the better.
Okay, AIG Wilson, let's talk about what Nigerians perceive is is sort of like systemic ineptitude within the system itself, where there is this perceived unwillingness on the part of the powers that be to actually do the needful. Because in the aftermath of the hunger protest that we saw just a couple of weeks ago, for instance, several arrests, hundreds of arrests have been made, and the federal government through the NSA and other security agencies have told Nigerians how many people they have in their custody who are allegedly trying to sponsor, you know, all these protests to destabilize Nigeria, for instance. And Nigerians are scratching their head wondering, where is that momentum to addressing this long-standing problem of insecurity? From your experience, regarding the scale and the strategy point, what is actually the main gap that concerns you the most about why the military, the police, the DSS, every security agency that we have in this country is unable to, give us solutions.
When you're dealing with security, the solution is not like opening a tap of water, or tap water and a pipe water, and you open the tap, the water flows, and you want it to stop it on. It is a gradual thing, a work in progress. But the solution that we have is coming to a level that it needs to be taken to a more serious level. But I think, in terms of funding, when you're dealing with internal security operations, and because if you do not take the police primacy seriously, you are never going to get it right. I can tell you that most police divisions, if a police division that has establishment of say 300, if you are lucky you get 100. And even those 100, what level of resources in terms of equipment do they have?
On a scale of 1 to 10 AIG, how wide is the gap when we talk about funding the police? Because every police leadership tells us about how they're poorly funded, and most of the time Nigerians see it for themselves, the kind of cars they drive and the kind of police stations we have in our various communities. How wide is the funding gap?
I think, let's take the issue of logistics, vehicle for example. Forget about some of the divisions you find in the FCT, but if you go outside, you're going to find that in a division, in a place, a very big place, you may not get more than 3-4 vehicles. How are they going to respond? And that is a challenge. But I really want to talk about the issue of what happens in the Northwest, it must say. There are issues, that is why I say security is a collective fight, a collective approach that you need to take. Now, when the house is divided, the bush rat or whatever is able to come and explode those cracks. And I think if you look at a place like Zamfara, for example, when you had the vigilante taking of arms against perceived bandits and the rest of it, it was a division. It assumed the dimension of ethnicity. And now, when you have these people not living together, it means it's easy for anybody either to come from a neighboring country or otherwise to destabilize them. So, and I think there is a need that the elders will also begin to address some of these issues. That is why I say this thing is affecting everyone, because you could have all the security you think you have, but if they want to take on you, if they have the number, they can still stop you and attack you. So what we need to do is about closing ranks. It's about people of public-spirited people within the Northwest, North Central, and even Northeast, to rise up to the occasion and say, look, we've got to do something about this, because you could have technology. Yeah, technology is good. It's force multiplier. We are going to have trackers and all the rest of them. And that is why I talked about
Senator is saying that we have these resources. Deploying them is the question mark here.
I understand I understand. What the point I'm making is this. Actually, in Nigeria, if you make a phone call, if you're a kidnapper, that case should have been solved, because there is those capabilities exist. But I don't know whether it's because of the quantum number of the incidents that is making those response a challenge. But you have those things. But if you go to NCC, that should be in the front line, who will get the service providers to give this cooperation. Because if you make a phone call, it shouldn't be too difficult. But I'm telling you that there are other internal dynamics and the approach of government. I imagine myself as a commissioner of police in the state, and I see when it comes to campaign, I see that the governors don't sleep, their aides do not sleep, they are all over the state, which means if these people close ranks and even give 1/4 of the attempt they make to get re-elected or to get elected, is going to go a long way. Because what we are talking about, can people stay? We have 3 or 4 in this studio. If one of us is doing something and all the rest of us say we don't want to say, we look the other way, it's going to happen. Okay. So we've got to have public-spirited individuals to say, look, this thing has to stop. There are food sellers. There are people who sell food in jerrycans. There are people who are barbers. There are people who are hunters. There are people who are farmers. There are people who are timber dealers. All these people go to bush. Is it that they don't see anything? Yeah. And because if you leave it at the border, because they come all the way to Niger, when they leave Zamfara, they come to Birnin Kebbi, they go to Kagara, and then they enter that wide area of Heronach and all those parts of Niger. So they are already in, and there are people. And when you talk about some people give explanation for government's places, but if you, a legitimate farmer, you want to go and till those grounds that they call the chief, and the other people are going to come. Who gave you this land? So it's all of us rising up that this must stop, because everything we do, terrain, equipment, the human element is the most critical.
Okay.
People willing.
Okay. All right. We'll circle back to that willingness and, of course, the participation of members of the public. But a lot of Nigerians feel like they're doing their best to aid the security agencies in their intelligence gathering efforts and whatnot. But, of course, not much has come by way of a solution. We're just going to take a moment's break. Daily Politics returns as we double down on this growing challenge of insecurity, especially in northern Nigeria. Join us again. Tonight's conversation is centered on insecurity, especially in Nigeria, where over the past couple of weeks we've seen a resurgence of some sort, especially with regards to attacks, killings, maiming and destruction that has continued unabated. Our guest in the studio tonight is retired Assistant Inspector General of Police Wilson Inalegwu, and of course former Senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Shehu Sani, providing us with some insight on these issues and how best to navigate them. Well, Senator, just before the break, the AIG, retired AIG, was alluding to how it's a collective task for Nigerians to navigate this, and he particularly talked about the political will. If politicians put a lot more weight on this particular issue, we may likely see a moving of the needle, so to say. In the Northwest particularly, over the past 2-3 months, the governors have collectively conducted 2 summits or conferences, but also have even go into faraway United States to be part of a security summit, all in an effort to fashion out, I suppose, a way to address the security gaps. And we also heard from one of the sons of the late district head there, who unfortunately lost his life, narrate the ordeal connecting a political figure within that community to this particular development. I mean, nothing has been confirmed yet. The police perhaps will have a lot more information on that according to their investigation. But what are your thoughts about the political connections? Because we've heard so many stories in Zamfara, for instance, where political figures, even in Sokoto State, the governor has had to suspend some traditional leaders because of their alleged connection to some of these criminal endeavors.
It is a known fact that politics has not helped matters, especially in these 3 states. And you can even add Kaduna when it comes to issue from what happened from 2015 to 2023. Now, in all matters, you need to get your politics right. Once there are political conflicts, political discordant tunes, you are not going to have that solidarity, that unity that you need to be able to confront a common challenge. That's very important. I can remember politics kept the girls of federal government's girls' college Yauri in the hands of bandits for almost 1.5 years. The politics between 2 political godfathers in Kebbi State. And in Zamfara State, from the feelers, the news, and the postings we have been seeing on social media, political differences has also made matters worse. And in Sokoto State, after the killing of the emir of Gobir, There are insinuations that there are also political ingredients to all these things here. Now, it is important, not just for people of Kebbi, Sokoto and Zamfara, but for the whole people of northern Nigeria particularly, to know that we are confronted with a common danger, one that is threatening to consume us all as a people and as a nation. And the North has become a breeding ground for criminals that are in the name of bandits and in the name of terrorists. It's important that we keep aside our political differences, whether you are this party or that party or this religion, to know that terrorism is a common danger to each and every one of us. And the earlier we attack it, the better. Take a look at what is happening. Terrorism and banditry has destroyed our rural life. Many farmers can't go to their farms. They are being taxed by terrorists and bandits. Our schools, according to official figures, international groups said, over 10,000 schools have closed down. We have reached a point where many people have abandoned their villages, especially in Niger East. They are now camping in Erana. And in many villages in Kaduna State, many people have moved to Niger Republic. Now, we can't continue like this. It's important that the political ruling elites in northern part of Nigeria need to have a policy that can be implementable policy. We need to come into a room, traditional rulers, religious leaders, the intelligentsia and the North, security chiefs, those that are serving and those that are in office. And then we come together and come out with a roadmap on how to, if we need to have a vigilante group.
Outside of the state apparatus?
No, it will be complementary state apparatus.
Right.
If we need to have a vigilante group that can be trained by professional police and professional army, for them to be equipped to do what they need to. There is no bandit and there is no terrorist in Nigeria that is not known by the locals. These bandits are not from Mars, they are not from Jupiter, they are not from Saturn, they are not from Pluto, they are not from Uranus. They are also not from Congo or Malawi or Angola. They are our people from our place. For example, from Kaduna to Abuja here, there are about 16 to 17 different villages along the road. There is no way any bandit can cross that road without the people of those localities knowing when he is coming and from where he is going. So if we have a security agency that is now well funded and upgraded to 21st century, this idea of setting up checkpoints, stopping vehicles and flashing torchlight in booths and the faces of drivers, this is not 19th century. This is 21st century. Technology is very important. As vast as China is, as vast as Algeria, as vast as other countries within Africa, you can't cross their border with technology without the system detecting who you are. It is very easy. Look at the expanse of land where these terrorists are operating in Zamfara State. You know it very well, the NCC and other telecommunication agencies. Any call made in those places can easily be monitored and information supplied to security.
So how do you explain to average Nigerians who wonder then that with all of these technologies that we already have, that we perhaps need to improve upon, why there appears to be this unwillingness to do something about it? Because as you said, you've tweeted and you've said so much about, you know, the obvious thing, whether it's NIMC, whether it's the Nigeria Communications Commission, whether it's, you know, using obvious tracking devices and things like that, as you were alluding to just now. Why does it appear that it is not being deployed? Because we see some of these individuals online, they now have developed an appetite for posting some of their criminal activities, whether it's their propaganda messages and so on and so forth online. They're not even trying to hide.
You see, what even makes me wonder is this. When you're conversing with people, they will say, call me on WhatsApp, because they may be recording what we are talking on the number line.
Right.
Then I wonder if people, almost 80% of people now are using WhatsApp to make calls. The thought is that if you make a normal
end-to-end encryption,
and these bandits make normal calls to their own families of their victims and collect ransom, these are answers that we need from our security agencies. If we continue on this path, we may wake up without a nation. Northern part of Nigeria.
You think we're there? We're at a crisis point where we're on the brink?
No, I can appreciate. Actually, we must say it. In the last 12 to 13 months, there have been improvement in security in a number of places. It is not there, but we have left somewhere. For example, in the last 3 to 4 years, you can't travel from Kaduna to Abuja. Kidnapping is a daily issue. The trend, since the last train attack, there was none. We can see the presence of soldiers. We have also recorded how some kingpins, these bandits kingpins, were all exterminated. So there are improvements that are made. But the question we need to ask, Nigeria with such enormous resources and such experienced security personnel in the army and in the police, we can still secure our country. These are questions we need to answer. We need a vigilante group that is well armed, well trained. They know the terrain to be able to work in tandem with our security agency to be able to. I never believe that this country can be held hostage by terrorists.
Right.
We can defeat them. Defeating them is possible, is doable. We only need to do what we need to do to be able to achieve that. If there is no banditry, I said, in Benin Republic, there shouldn't have been banditry here. Why should Nigeria be the only country in West Africa?
Nigeria is a better market for banditry compared to all these other economies because they are much smaller economies and they cannot get as much as they would if they're there. But obviously, I digress. Let's talk about one particular thing. He's talking about the non-state actors that we need to empower, that we need to build their capacity, like the vigilantes. I mean, in Katsina State, you have the Community Watch Corps. Several other states have their own little augmentation of the security architecture there. But one of the issues that has been gaining some traction over the past few months or years is the idea of state policing. Do you think it is a solution to this ever-growing challenge?
I am not. Okay, let me put it this way. The security agencies need support. I traveled to a state, one of these Amotekun states. While the Amotekun were supported with logistics in terms of vehicle, the police there were like orphans. I wanted one of the vehicles to take me from Akure to Undo. It couldn't get it. I had to take another vehicle. So the thing is, you give somebody a farm, you don't give the person implements. How is he going to do it? Now, if we begin to duplicate and multiply, we are going to create monsters out of them, particularly if they are not regulated. And I say this for a number of reasons. I think the approach we need to adopt, it should be more scientific. Because the problem we have is about terrain, most of them. Are we doing any analysis of this terrain? How come it's only around Zurmi in Zamfara? A lot of attacks seem to be localized. Now, how do we approach such? So even when we are talking about technology, that's why I talked about data. Because when you look at some of these things and you aggregate them, you're able to craft solutions, steps that will address them.
Do you think activities like illegal mining explains the point that you're just trying to make?
Of course, there are connections because the illegal mining activities bring a number of people. Why does it happen that way? If you go to where illegal mining takes place, you could have up to 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5,000. Once they hear that mineral has been discovered in a place, I mean, nobody checks them. Anywhere there's lawlessness, it can lead to crime. So, but we need to take charge, and because if you can bring the community, and this is the way I wanted to bring the community, in terms of volunteering information, and then you equip the security forces to be able to respond. Now in Nigeria, I don't know how we do our security analysis. If you have a ward, for example, how many wards have security committee? How many wards are discussing, or even an emirate having the security system? Because you've got to have security coordination. And that means in the local government system, the local government security committee must be, the governors must ensure that the local government security coordinating committees take place. Because when such take place, people know where to report issues. And then these reports begin to come. You are able, if a pattern is being formed, you are able to develop the strategy to deal with that.
I get the feeling that you're making a case for state policing or community policing.
No. I'm talking of security coordination. This is what I mean. If you have, for example, the chief, the district head, the hakimi, having his own security committee, you have the police, the federal police, the civil defense.
Do we have that many police officers or personnel to do that across the 700?
Get me right. You know, when Distinguished was, he mentioned different people. What I'm trying to say is this: every local government should have a security coordination committee that will have the village heads be members. One of the village to represent them, the district head. If there is anemia in that local government, then you are going to have the police, the civil defense, the medical superintendent, the highest school head there. If it's a secondary school, one of the senior principal, and then the youth leader, market women. Now, all these are in this security coordination committee. Reports, they make reports, and these reports are forwarded to the state. Now, the state collects either every week, every 2 weeks, they get this information from local government and do their own kind of analysis, either in the office of the public security or the commissioner responsible for security. And this is forwarded to the National Security Council, to the Office of National Security. When you begin to analyze, you begin to understand the patterns that form, and you're able to craft. Because it's not just about throwing people to the field. Okay, just come to think of it. Most of the places you have kidnapped, there are hills. That's why I say you have to do a kind of route terrain analysis. That's not happening.
I mean, we have one of the largest armies on the continent, Senator. Help us square this circle so we understand. You know, we did talk about the scale, we did talk about the strategy and how all of that needs to change. But Nigerians feel, you know, heads are not rolling, especially when people are charged with the responsibility of providing security or mitigating the activities of some of these bandits, for instance. Do you think that enough has been done to suggest that we are turning a corner? I mean, you talked about some sort of improvement. It depends on who you ask, really, in regards to some of these developments, because as we've shown right there, the data suggests that, you know, there is a resurgence. Might not be entirely across the region, but there is an element that, you know, things are getting from bad to worse. Give me a sense of, you know, whether you think, whether it's state policing or more funding and things like that, where the solution lies in the short, mid, and long term.
You see, Nigeria's security challenges began from the very moment we underfunded the police, especially the divisional police office. There is no territory in Nigeria today that is not being monitored by within the territory of the DPOs. Now, you go to a typical divisional police office, you find out that they virtually don't have anything. Don't talk of even vehicle. Now, there was a time I was driving with my daughter, and then we reached a checkpoint after checkpoint. And then she asked me whether sellotape was part of the guns of the police, because almost every policeman you see with a AK-47, there is a sellotape. The guns are taped, right? They're taped. So she was asking whether that is part of the
armament.
The armament. Now, don't even go far. Just go to this Shehu Sani. Some of the vehicles that are being stationed there by the police are the ones donated by Dangote over 1 decade ago. And you can even see the state of the vehicle. At a certain time, we were driving. There was a vehicle that was crossed across the road, that was stationed across the road. And then we requested that the police move the vehicle. They say it cannot move. It's just there. Now, this is to show you that pumping money to defense and security has not been able to even address the problem, because the money doesn't go to where it's supposed. Remember, the last chief of army staff who died in a plane crash in Kaduna, at Tahiru. When he took over office, he said he virtually met nothing in the office. And I knew very well that before he came, extra budgetary allocation was made to defense and security. And it's a point whereby soldiers on the front line were complaining of lack of food, lack of equipment to fight. The police also are Then, as a former senator, I knew very well that we don't very much debate on the budget for defense and security for the police, the SSS, and the army. But you wonder where the money goes. And if nations that are earning less and are able to secure their country, then you cannot exclude corruption in the system.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, obviously. Just before we go, because I have a couple of seconds to go, AIG Inalegwu, let's get your thoughts on, very briefly. Nigerians say during the protest we saw Nigerian police operate at, a 10. The ability to coordinate and organize and things like that. If only they put as much energy into addressing some of these gaps to the best of their ability, perhaps we might get it right. What would you say to those Nigerians who are losing their confidence in the Nigerian police? Very briefly.
I think they have no need to lose confidence in the police, because the police, I think, is one of the most functional institutions in Nigeria today. And come to think of it, assuming they are resourced. Because what is going on is wrong. Because there is a process of military assistance to civil authority, MACA or MACP. That's not happening. And so you have over 32 or so states where you have military involvement. Do they follow the process? A situation where you don't even have any equipment. But the police love Nigerians. The police desires to be the best that they can. And they are indeed best, because they have the capacity, but they don't have the capacity in terms of resources. And I think Nigerians, you've got to support the police. Then when you support them and they don't perform, you can hold them.
All right. Okay, gentlemen, as much as I would love for us to continue, unfortunately, we're going to have to anchor the conversation here. Thank you most kindly for your thoughts, for your insight and contribution on daily politics. And I thank you most kindly for your time. I appreciate you for stopping by. All right, that is our conversation with retired Assistant Inspector General of Police Wilson Inalegwu and Senator Shehu Sani on the state of affairs, especially when it comes to security in northeast Nigeria, following what has been quite a traumatic couple of weeks for states in the northwest, to be precise. That is our show for you tonight. Thank you most kindly for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow live and exclusive as always on Trust TV. Do well to follow us across our social media platforms to stay in touch. You can also visit our website, trusttv.com, to check out the latest news and programs. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. For myself and the rest of the team, thank you for your time and good night.